I I take my goal planning very serious every year for a couple of reasons. I think we live in a world where it's kind of this cliche thing for us to set goals, right? And we almost like check it off a box of like, oh, I've set my goals for the year. And I've fallen trapped to that for a long time. If I set the goals and almost check it off, like got that done, now let me just fall back into my normal routine. But over the last several years, one thing has become very clear to me that I get one life to live. I'm 43 years old. More than likely, I'm probably only going to go through this year-end goal planning process 40 more times in my lifetime. And I know that's kind of somber to think of it that way, but as I wrap up 2023, I will never have the opportunity to impact 2023 again in my lifetime. Walking into 2024, I get one shot at making 2024 something I'm proud of. And what I don't want to do is get to the end of 2024 and have some things that I've done very well, but look back and also recognize that I've let some really important things to me in my life, my one life to live, fall through the cracks. And so today, what I'd like to do is walk you through my year-end process of what I do, but I want to be very clear, this may not be the right process for you. What I'm hoping it does is it sparks something in you to go on a journey to refine your own process, because I'm going to be vulnerable today and show you where I won in 2023, and I'm going to show you where I lost in 2023, and some of the things that I learned about myself going through that process in 2023 and how it's going to impact how I approach 2024. So you may look at some of the stuff I'm doing and being like, man, you're not near as smart as I thought you were. And that's okay if it sparks you to think through how you want to approach your own goal setting this coming year. I'm hopeful, though, that it triggers something in you to aspire to be a better version of you, because that's what life's all about, is just getting a little bit better every single day. So I'm going to share my screen just so I can share some of, I threw together some ideas. And honestly, it was really humbling for me to throw this out there of just saying, would you be interested? We had over 100 people say, I would be interested in that. Out of the 100 people, you can see 47 of you showed up to the conversation today. I had several people ask for a recording of it. But what that tells me on my side is that I'm in the right network. I'm with the right group of people that are aspiring to be a better version of themselves too. And that makes me proud to be on the journey with you. A lot of you know that is the whole premise of the Whole Enchilada. It's how do I become better and surround myself by other people that are growing and becoming better as well. So let's jump into this. What I'd like to do, just as a matter of time, is if you have a question or comment, let's throw it into the chat. What I'll do is I'll kind of monitor that as we go, if we can answer questions that way. But again, I do want to honor everyone's time. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly and hopefully tie it all together. All right, so a couple things. I'm rereading the book Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday right now, which is one of my all-time favorite books as far as like recentering myself. It's part of a trilogy he wrote. In that book, he gives this quote: mediocrity knows nothing higher than itself. And I'm in no way suggesting that anyone on this call is mediocre in any way, because I actually believe that to be different. I feel like the group that I roll in are high achievers. However, what I took away from this quote was this idea of, I only know what I know, and anything above that, anything I'm aspiring to, is I don't know yet. And for me to get there, I have to question my current reality, which is some of the process I'm going to take you through today. I had a couple really interesting conversations with a couple of you that responded to this goal setting, a little bit about what it was about. And I want to share a couple of those conversations just as a premise of this. One person reached out to me and said, hey, you know what? I'm actually really, really good at setting my goals. Where my problem lies is actually executing my goals, which was a really interesting comment, I thought, because I think we live in this world where we're very good at setting the goals, but have we actually set up a game plan of how do we actually execute and hold ourselves accountable to those goals? I can't remember what the percentage is, but the percentage of people that actually set New Year's resolution goals is very high. By the 15th of the month, more than 80% of people have already given up on their goals and pushed them aside, like, yeah, maybe not. It's so interesting to me. And I think it's because we don't have a system or a game plan or a tool of how am I going to hold myself accountable, which is what I'm going to walk you through today. Because I want to go from take this group from being goal setters to goal achievers. That's the whole premise of putting the goal on a piece of paper in the safety of our room at the end of the year. It's safe to put down the goal at a time, but then you walk onto the battlefield, and do you have the tools and the game plan already in place to be able to execute on the goals, actually be a goal achiever? One quick comment I'll make on this is, a lot of you know that one of my most impactful books in my career is called The 4 Disciplines of Execution. And you're going to see these 4 disciplines show up and how I operate my personal goals. Just real quickly, those 4 disciplines are: number 1 is you have to get over clarity on what is the wildly important goal. Not just throw a goal out there because your buddy down the hall set that goal, but like, what is wildly important to you? And I'm going to show you the 7 categories in which I set those goals today. Second is, if that goal is important to me, am I clear on the most important activity that I must focus on every day that I could guarantee will give me the result I want? Number 3 is keep a compelling scoreboard. It is critical to track how you are doing. I will tell you, you will not hit your goals no matter how beautiful your vision board is right now, if you don't look at it again and hold yourself accountable to it by the end of next year. It's like, how are we keeping score? We play differently when we keep score. The last one is create a cadence of accountability, which a lot of you come from my world. You know, accountability is very big for me. It's who is holding you accountable. Have you shared your goals with people that are going to ask you, hey, Gladys, how are you doing on this goal, right? Do they know what your goals are clear enough that they can ask you about them and hold you accountable to them? And you also know I'm very big on coaching. So keep those 4 disciplines in mind as we jump into this process. All right, so let's jump into how I approach the end of the year. Normally, what I'm focused on through the first end of January, or the first half of December, really the end of November, first half of December, is getting all of my business goals put together. Because all of my businesses need to be clear on what they're trying to accomplish, because then I need to incorporate them into my personal world of what my responsibility is to make those goals happen. A lot of you play a role in one of my companies somewhere where we're partners. It's important for me to understand what is my obligation or my commitment within that business structure to make sure that wins. And then those activities that I'm responsible for within that business plan, I need to make sure that I can infuse them into my personal world in a way that we're winning, but I'm also not detracting from the personal wins that I deserve and want in my life and my family deserves of me. And I'll walk you through that process today. So here's where I always start when I get into my personal goals. All my business goals are put together, which I'll show you an example of that here in a minute. But then I always take a minute and I start with the end in mind, the bigger vision, not 2024, but like my tombstone. What am I all about? And so when I start with the end in mind, I always start first by going back to my personal mission vision statement. And I ask myself, does this still fire me up? Is this still who I'm aspiring to be? A lot of you guys have seen this before. As I pull this up, I read through it. This still fires me up as my personal mission vision statement. These 3 categories for me, as long as these 3 buckets are being filled, I still get fired up and I want to go win. So I'm going to give you a couple homework assignments if you choose to take them. First one is this: if you don't have a written out personal mission vision statement, there's no way for you to overlap your 2024 goals with your life mission to say, is this the stepping stone I need in 2024 to become the best version of me in life? If you don't know what you're trying to accomplish in life by your personal mission vision, what you want to be known for, really your goals for 2024 are circumstantial, and probably there's not much meat or connection to them on an emotional level. So to me, as I read this still fires me up. This is part of my personal affirmations every day. Up here on my wall in my home office, it's 4 foot by 8 foot, and I read it every single morning. And it still fires me up. The next thing I look at from the end in mind is I look at my freedom number. A lot of you guys have been through my wealth building training before, where I talk about what a freedom number is, which a freedom number to me is I want to live my life by design. There's some element of money it's going to take for me to live that. My freedom number is what net worth do I need to have, and how does that net worth need to be allocated so that those assets produce the passive income that fully fund my life by design. That is a complete freedom number to me. And I need to review it every year to say, is that still true to me? So a lot of you guys know I've been through my freedom number exercise. which, by the way, if any of you have not been through it, I'd love to have you come to one of my wealth building classes this year, or I'm happy to send this document over. But I always reconnect with that and say, is my retirement budget still accurate? Is my freedom number still accurate? Because my ability to increase my net worth in 2024, I get one shot at it, which is 365 days. Okay. So I look at that from the end in mind. So I start with my mission vision statement. I look at my freedom number and my retirement budget to say, is this still accurate? And then I go into what did I learn about myself in 2023? Let me show you a couple of things about the process I go through for 2023. So what you're seeing on your screen right now, this was my vision board for 2023. Now I do a vision board a little bit differently, because you can see down in the right-hand corner, I have some element of a scoreboard of what I'm trying to accomplish in each one of the companies that I participate in and help run. But I also put on here some things that are really important to me, but not just pictures I happen to find in a magazine. It's, can I tie any one of these activities back to the other tools I'm going to show you of how I'm going to implement that in my life? And so, for example, and you can see up here at the top, this 4/7/23 and this 11/12/23 is, I drop into my vision board regularly, and these little notes you see on it are notes I'm making to myself of how I'm doing in relation to my vision board. And here's a couple examples of what I learned about myself while going through this. Is I have this little motorcycle right here. I actually have a very cool motorcycle sitting in my garage, and it is so fun to ride. But guess what? I don't make the time to go ride it as much, even though I love it. Because what I've learned is there's other activities that are more important to me, and I can only take so much time away from my family. When I'm riding that motorcycle, I'm flying solo. I'm taking time away from my family. So that doesn't mean I'm going to sell my motorcycle, and it doesn't mean I'm not going to ride it next year. But what I'm going to say is, hey, that happens to be a sidecar leisure activity that I'll get to if I get to. And if I don't, I don't. But it doesn't impact me becoming the best version of me next year. And so same thing with, I love to shoot guns. A lot of you know I've been through some like tactical gun training and things like that I love to do. Guess how many times I got out and shot in 2023? Only a handful. And guess what? It didn't impact my overall happiness. And so neither of when I show you my vision board for 2024, even though last year, as I sat down, I thought those two things were going to be important to me, the way I showed up showed me that maybe they weren't as important as I thought they were. But there were other places that I gave myself a lower score. Look at this trail running one. I had one of my goals for 2023 was a 50-mile run, trail race. I pulled my calf muscle in the spring of last year that kept me from training all spring. So you can see when I came in and started looking at this, I gave myself a 5 out of 10 score. My cardio was there. My running training was not. So you can see in each one of these areas, I'm constantly making myself little notes and comments of where I can improve and get better off my vision board. And then briefly, the other tool I use, which I'm going to show you here in a minute, is as I put together my goals in regards to the 7 categories that are important to me, is I walk through this, and this is 2023, is I like to put together a little statement for myself at the beginning of the year. Last year it was, I'm committed to grow so I can lead and protect the people I love while having a whole lot of fun. That was my statement for 2023. You can see in the gray box, it's what am I trying to accomplish? The little white box is who is my person that's going to help me do it? Like, who is my coach that I'm going to lean on when I have questions to go to? And then off to the right, I put down my measurable things. And you'll see, again, I go through and make a bunch of notes throughout the year of what's working, what's not working. Like, for example, last year, part of my health goal, I put down no refined sugar. Guess what? I love sugar. I found out that's harder to cut sugar out than I thought. But I found that if I'm operating under a certain amount of calories, whether it's sugar or vegetables, as long as I'm getting my protein, I can still hit my goal. So I was learning this process through it. So the point I'm making is this little comment I made over here. As you put together vision board and goals, don't think you're writing them in concrete. Let them be living organisms, because you're constantly evolving and changing. And that's part of this process, is you're choosing a path of evolvement and change. And let that change happen, but be okay changing with it over time. That's part of being healthy. That's why our body is constantly reproducing from inside out from a biochemistry standpoint. It's the same thing from a goal standpoint. Make these living documents. So I'll come back to this and show you. And this, by the way, at the end of this, there will be a challenge for you. And I've got some documents for you if you choose to use them, if you choose to accept this mission of using this sheet to fill out some of your measurable goals for this year. So after I kind of do that process of looking at my mission, vision statement, is that still fire me up? After I get into my freedom number of like, am I still got my eye on the mark of what I'm trying to accomplish to protect the future version of me? As I go into how did I actually show up and what did I learn about myself in 2023? That's where I start moving my vision forward. That's when I start looking at this stepping stone for 2024. And so let me walk you through the process that I go through here. Gladys, by the way, if you see any questions or anything pop into the chat that I need to address, I'm not actively watching that. Will you jump on and interrupt me and let me know when that comes on?
Will do.
So vision forward, this is what I'm looking at here. Is number one is, I know it sounds old school and some of you are going to judge me for not being a little bit more digital, but I always order a desk calendar like this. Normally I'll get one with some silly picture or something on it because that's not what I operate off the year. But what I do is the very first thing I do when I get this calendar is I have a meeting with my wife and I hand it to her and say, I need to know everything that is important for me to be at for our family this year. So first thing she does is go pull up the school calendar. Every day our kids are off school. And what triggered me to start this exercise is I can't tell you how many times in my career, like I'm getting ready for work and I'm like, kids, you're not getting ready for school. What's going on? They're like, oh, we don't have school today. And I had appointments scheduled for work and I didn't have the ability to be like, oh, great, I'll go to the zoo with you guys. That work day was miserable for me because I knew my kids were out doing something special for them. And it wasn't anyone's fault but my own for not knowing that my kids were out of school that day. So, what the thing I'm looking at there is what day are the kids out of school, what concerts, what plays, what vacations, everything we want to do as a family goes on this handwritten calendar first, because you'll see on this one for 2024, we've scratched things out, we've moved things around. This one's the messy version for us to get that infrastructure first. That's where I start with a vision for 2024. And then obviously the thing I talked about earlier is I want to make sure all my businesses have a very clear game plan, which I'm not going to get into this because a lot of you went through business planning training, but just to give you some perspective, like here's the GPS, what we call our one-page business plan for our mortgage company. I have one of these for every one of the companies that I'm responsible for. Is we have a clear GPS or a 135. This is for the mortgage company of we know as a team exactly what we're committed to accomplish in 2024. Now, this is a team effort. This is a whole team of people that are going to accomplish this. I play a role in this. And do I have clarity on what my responsibility is? Because now I need to make sure that is reflected in my personal tool, my 411 and my calendar, which I'll walk you through it here in a minute. Do I have clear scoreboards of how I'm holding the team accountable to every one of those GPSs? I cannot win personally if I don't have a team committed and me knowing what I'm doing within each one of those businesses. That's all I'm going to say about the business goals, because all of you have your business plans put together. This conversation is how do you incorporate and hold yourself accountable to your personal goals at the same time your businesses are set to thrive. So the next thing I do on my vision forward, coming down here to the third bullet point, this is where I start putting together my vision board for 2024. I love the visual piece of it. I love pulling up that visual. Honestly, I will tell you, I fought vision boards and affirmations for probably the first decade of my career because it made me think of that old Saturday Night Live skit with Jack Handy that they made fun of those personal affirmations. And I was just like, that's hokey pokey. That's not important to me. However, now that I do it, it is so impactful for your success. So the next thing I do is I go through and I'll show you each one of these for me that I've already done for 2024. I go through my 2024 vision board. What do I personally want to accomplish? What are all the areas that are important to me? The second thing I do is I walk through that 7 areas of life exercise. I'll show you mine here in a second. And then I do this process called deconstruct and reconstruct my calendar, which I'll walk through and I'll show you my 411. So let's look at my 2024 vision board. Now, you might be looking at this and saying, hey, this looks like your 2023 vision board. But guess what? I don't need to create a brand new vision board every year with completely different things just because I'm making a new vision board. 2024 version of Marcus isn't that significantly different than the 2023 version of me. 2024 version of me is a refinement of who I am. So for example, you see in the top right-hand corner, last year, a big focus for me was getting closer to Jesus. And I had some things focused in my life to do that. That doesn't mean I'm done with that. I know that's going to be part of me for the rest of my life. So that still belongs on my vision board. But you'll notice there's some things changed. Number one is I had to update my family picture because my daughters are gorgeous. But like this picture that you're seeing my mouse on, that wasn't on the vision board last year. This fishing, I switched out a fishing picture of me fishing this last year of some of the fishing trips I want to go on. I still have the 50 mile on here. But the point is I'm okay evolving this. You'll also notice little teeny writing on here of me showing what are my measurables for those items. So when I come in to do my notes, like I'll be completely vulnerable with you guys on this one. One of my favorite new hobbies I picked up a year ago is guitar. And guess what? I suck at it, but it is so fun. And my kids, it cracks them up because every time I go perform for them, I crumble. And they think it's hilarious that I'm trying to be able to play songs for them. But I have a goal this year to have 4 guitar sets ready that if somebody sees me and says, how do you play the guitar? I'll be like, oh, I'll play for you. That's a goal of mine. And it's not going to sound beautiful, but I want to have the confidence to do that. So I have little things written here of like, what do I want to accomplish in each one of these areas instead of just having a random picture because I'm flipping through a magazine the way most people do vision boards. Okay. And then I haven't finalized my final scoreboard piece for all the different companies that I run down here, but I'll go fill these in to have the exact ultimate goal for each one of these so I can come in and give myself a grade on how I'm progressing on these vision boards. Okay. And Gladys, any comments I need to reply to in the chat there so far?
None, but Charles made some comment on the one that you presented. On their end, they call it ear insight.
Oh, cool. I like that. And again, the thing I like about this is I'm in no way saying this is the only way to do it. I love that you're already refining some of that process of how you do yours. So once I've got my vision board put together, let's keep moving here. I got the vision board put together. I'm excited about it. I'm going to share this with the people that mean most to me. My family will know what's on this vision board and what I'm committed to. Then I move into this idea of my 7 areas of life exercise. The reason that I've broken this down is there was a time in my career where I would write goals that incorporated other important things in my world, like my health, my family, my relationships. But what I let drive my life was my business. Oh, instead of going to this dance recital, this person needs to go see a home. That's money for my family. I'm going to tell them sorry because they'll forgive me later. I'm going to go show this home. And then what I realized on that is my priorities were getting backwards. And there was a way for me to do both. I didn't have to choose one or the other. I had to figure out how to prioritize my life and make sure that I have clarity on goals in all areas that were important to me. A lot of you guys know that is the whole premise behind the whole enchilada. And that's why it's called the whole enchilada, is that has nothing to do with Mexican food. It is, how do you live an elevated life across all 7 of these categories? Those 7 categories for me are health, soul or spirituality, relationships, fun, my career, wealth, and impact. Sometimes people ask me if career and wealth are the same thing. They're different things to me. Career is what I'm doing to create active income. Wealth is what am I doing to create long-term passive income? How am I putting my money to work to serve the future version of me and my family? And I need very specific goals around each one of those. So you could pick up some of these or change them or add some, but I would encourage you to categorize, create these buckets in which you're creating goals for yourself. Once I've identified these 4 areas, that's when I come back to this sheet, which, by the way, I'll make a PDF available of this to all of you that want one. But again, what I do is up at the top is I pick a statement, and I'll show you the one I have filled out for 2024 and walk you through some of that here in a second. But I put my statement in here. In the gray box, I start there by writing, if I had to write in one sentence, what am I trying to accomplish in a measurable way? What is it? And what are the lead measures that I need to make sure are reflected on my calendar and my to-do list, that if I do those things, this gray box will show up. This little white box is Who am I leaning on to help me do it? Okay. So let me show you, and I'm in no way asking any of you to read this because my handwriting is horrible, but I can read it, and that's all that matters. And so here, this is my 2024. And by the way, this is the first 60 days of 2024. This isn't the whole year. And so if any of you have read the 12-week work year, it had a really interesting premise that we tend to think in calendar years, but the pace of our world is so much faster now that we really don't even know what the world's going to look like in 6 months from now. So I like to section these goals down into a smaller piece from an actionable standpoint. My vision board is a yearly vision board. I'm sucking this down to a 60-day challenge, which, by the way, spoiler alert, I'm going to invite any of you that want to go with me on a 60-day challenge going through this process with me, so we can create some element of accountability to your goals if you choose to join me. But this is what it looks like for me. Let me walk you through. I won't share all of it, but a couple things that are important in filling this out. Number one is finding just a little statement that's going to refire you up. I like that in the top box. For me, this came again from the book Stillness is the Key, which is honestly one of my all-time favorite books. So, probably only second to the Motivation Manifesto, which is my all-time favorite book. But in there, they section it down to superior performance, awesome clarity, profound happiness. Like, to me, that'd be a pretty cool definition of my life in 2024. So whatever that is for you goes in that box. Second, for my health. I've really been focusing on my health over the last 75 days. I just finished a 75-day challenge, which actually I want to slow down for just 1 second and talk about that 75-day challenge. Is the way my year ended up, my last quarter, I ended up being on the road a lot more than I anticipated for some of my businesses. It just required me to be on the road to be teaching and recruiting and things like that. I will tell you that I pulled up my calendar and saw that I was going to be on the road 50 days out of 75 within that time frame, and I instantly went to a negative headspace. My mind started saying things like, "Man, that's a long time away from family. Oh man, I started counting up how many workouts I was gonna miss with my martial arts team. I'm gonna miss this. I'm making progress here. I'm doing these things." But instantly my brain went to, no, that's not gonna be my story. I'm going to do this, but I'm going to make it a positive in my life, not a negative. Normally when I'm traveling, my diet stinks. I'm whining and dining people. I'm taking people out. It's harder in the hotels. Some hotels have crummy gyms, things like that. It's easy to find excuses not to follow through with your goals. And what I did is I decided in a 75-day window, I decided I'm going to nail my health goals in this 75-day window, even at a higher caliber than I've done the rest of the year. And I just set some very clear goals around it. Kaylee, you're asking if it was 75 hard. It was very similar to a 75-day hard. It was a little bit different because I incorporated some of these other goals into it that aren't just the physical goals. But ultimately for me, what I was tracking from a health standpoint is 2150 calories a day, 150 grams protein, 1 gallon of water, 2 workouts a day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening, 1 of them outside. So very similar to 75-day hard. But so my health goal for 2024 is I want to maintain my body fat under 10% and stay in about the shape I'm at that way. I know what it takes to do that, right? So for me, the measurables, by the way, each one of these should be measurable. If it's just like, I generally want to get in better health, there's no way to measure that. So I want all these measurable. I know the 3 measurables for me is track my calories daily. That's the key for me. I love healthy food. That's not the problem. I love working out. That's not the problem. But if I don't track it, in my mind, I might think like, oh, I'm about 2,000 calories today. When if you really tracked it, I'd be closer to 4,000, right? So tracking my calories every day, ice bath weekly, workout 6 days a week. Those are my measurables. Simple measurables, okay? And then I make myself little notes of like what that means inside of it, but that doesn't mean anything to you. Let's look at another one. So like, for example, solar spirituality. One of the things I'm focused on this coming year for the first 60 days is I want to be very, very aware of where Jesus is showing up in my life. Honestly, just as a side note with this group, generally he shows up to me through people like you guys that I'm connected with. So thank you for being in my world. But I want to start documenting that in my world and keeping a journal of those things. So for 60 days, that's my goal, is to keep a 60-day journal of where I saw or felt Jesus show up in my life. The measurables for me is every morning, part of my morning routine, I'm going to study something about Jesus for 20 minutes, make sure I'm doing my daily prayer meditation. And then I'm very big on where I feel closest to deity for me is in nature. And so there's a Japanese principle called Shinrin Roku, which is spiritually bathing in nature. And I got to make sure that every week I'm finding time to get outside somewhere to feel that spiritual connection. And the only way, I can't just say I want that, I have to measure it. I have to put together a game plan to do it. So I just gave you a couple of examples there. We don't have to run through all of these. One of the PDFs you'll get if you're interested then is then me coming over here and saying, okay, now I want to track it for 60 days. So track calories daily comes over here on number 1. And now I've got 60, I cut it short to fit on the page. I've got 60 boxes that I'm just going to mark every day. This is one thing, someone mentioned 75-day hard a minute ago. One thing I will tell you about how I want to do this different than 75-day hard. 75-day hard, if you miss a day, you're back to day 1. For me, I can't miss my goals on January 18th and say, oh, I'm just going to magically go back to January 1. January 1 is gone. And if I messed up on January 17th, now January 17th is gone. I don't want that to deter me from just getting back on track. What I'm going to do is just roll right into the 18th and say, I'm going to get right back on it, because I'm 60 days is until from January 1 to February 29th, regardless of whether I won or didn't. Okay. So, I would encourage you, and you can notice I have some black boxes here. Ice bath weekly. I don't need 60 boxes for that. I need 9. So I left 9 boxes open, crossed out the don't overcomplicate this. Same thing. Workout daily. I don't work out on Sundays. So I have 6 days off, 6 days off, 6 days, but I just prepped it to know if I got a scoreboard on how to track this. Same thing for every one of these all the way down. Now I've got my lead measures that if I know I do them, I know I can win. Okay. So let's move into, let me check comments here real quick. Okay, beautiful. Thank you. So again, I have these blank ones that I'm happy to share with you. I'll tell you how to get those if you're interested. Then let me walk you through, how do I go from this vision board that's on my wall, this 7 areas of life exercise that's in my iPad with a scoreboard. Now, how do I show up every day? Like, how do I execute every day to make sure those stay a priority for me? There's really 2 tools that I use on a daily basis that help me stay focused on hitting my goals. Number 1 is my calendar. A calendar, if you're not living off your calendar, it blows me away, people that aren't using a calendar at a high level. Like, if you don't care enough about that your day, that you've documented how to use it, you're living like a leaf in the wind. You're just blowing around. So really learning how to use your calendar is a big deal, which I'm going to walk you through an important exercise with your calendar. And the other one for me is the 411, which a lot of you, if you come from the KW world, you know what a 411 is. I'll show you an example here, but it's basically a daily, weekly, monthly accountability tool tied back to this. So one thing I will tell you is I show you my 411, you will see on my 411 or my calendar, so there's 3 things: calendar, 411, daily success list. Everything you see that is important to me will show up on my calendar, my 411, and my daily success list. If it's not there, you can almost guarantee it will not happen. Okay. So let me show you how I approach those. So one of the things that was really a challenge for me early in my career, and this, you guys all are experiencing this, is as you start building your business and your business gets bigger, it consumes more and more of your calendar. I can help people think differently, but one thing I can never give somebody is more time. We all have the exact same amount of time every single day. So why is it some people can achieve at a very, very high level and some people cannot? So one of the things that became really frustrating to me is every time a new opportunity or a new goal came into my life, I would look at my calendar and say, there is literally nowhere to fit this. There's no way for me to fit more things in my calendar. I know some of you are feeling that way right now. Like, I want to do more things. I don't know how to fit them into my world. And so for me, what I had to create was this process that I call deconstruct my calendar before I can reconstruct my calendar. So every single year, at the end of the year, I take everything off my calendar to an absolutely blank calendar, because this just to give you an idea, this is a snap. I just picked some random week a few weeks ago in my calendar. This is what my calendar looks like. If I had a new goal or a new business or a new idea and came to my calendar, I'd literally be like, there's no way. There's no way for me to do something else. I have a full calendar, and my calendar looks like this all year long, right? The key is are the most important things. Can I tie every one of these back to my vision board and my 7 areas of life focus, which I can. So I wrote a note here. If you try to fit new goals into an already, this should say busy calendar, not a busty calendar. I guess both words work, but it doesn't work. So here's how I deconstruct my calendar. Again, some of you will criticize me a little bit because it's not as digital and tech savvy, but ultimately, this is how awesome Gladys is. She's already in here fixing it for me. So here's what I do is I build my ideal perfect calendar first. And here is the order in which I put things. So notice I highlighted here, I do this in an Excel format first before it goes onto my digital calendar. So I start with a very clean calendar, and I first write down my personal non-negotiables. So notice even though I've already got my business goals put together, the first thing that goes on my calendar are my personal non-negotiables. Let me give you a list of what my personal non-negotiables are. This is why, I don't know where I put it, that calendar I was just showing you a minute ago. That's why it's like literally, it's right here. That's why this activity is so important first, is my first non-negotiable activity is my family. So I want to make sure I've got every vacation on my calendar, my digital calendar. But this activity you're seeing on my screen is an ideal week where I'm not out of town, I'm not doing things, but like if I had to say the normal flow of my week, what are the personal non-negotiables for me, which I highlighted in blue here, just for the visual effect. I'll show you how I overlap the other things. Personal non-negotiables for me are first, all family things, family time, family dates, family activities. You'll see date nights on here. All my workouts, it's really important for me. I know that my ability to perform in business goes down significantly when my workouts go away. So you can see, like, this is an example of mine, is every morning, my stretch, affirmations, my reading, my first workout of the day in the morning, except for Thursdays, I have a one-on-one with my kickboxing coach. I have all my workouts, my family time, my date nights with my wife on Saturday. Thursday nights, I do date night one-on-one with my daughters, which today's Thursday. Tonight is ice skating. So I have all of these. I have all my workouts, everything in my calendar first, because I know that by me being the best version of me that way, I'm going to be a better version of me in all other areas of my life. The second thing I put into my calendar is what I call CEO time. So you can see I overlap that here. Guys, a lot of you on this call are entrepreneurs and business owners. We fail miserably at protecting our personal time and our CEO time. We're very good at being technicians in our business, but where do you need to show up as the CEO of your world? And so for me, these are all my accountability calls. And now mine's going to, because I spend so much time in leadership, mine will look different than a lot of yours. But these are all of the things that I do on a weekly basis from a CEO standpoint. What are my leadership one-on-one calls? On Sunday afternoon, I have a planning meeting with myself to kind of put a bookend on the week before, go over my 411. You can see every night I've got a little meeting with myself that I call Close Out the Day, which I'll show you exactly what that looks like here in a second. But I've got all of that on my calendar next. Then the next thing that goes on my calendar are what are my highest dollar productive activities. So for me, that's content creation and it's lead generation and follow-up. So those are my two highest dollar productive activities as the technician inside my world after leadership. So when am I going to do those? What does that look like? Okay. Now, just as a quick example, because as you guys saw, I run multiple businesses, so mine's going to look a little bit different. Yours could look a lot simpler, something like this. If you're a real estate agent, it's making sure that you've got your personal time on your calendar. You've got lead generation, which is your highest dollar productive activity. You've got your listing appointments, your buyer appointments on there, and your weekly planning. However you want it, just choose what works for you, but make sure you've got the CEO time on your calendar. Then once I've got this done, I go reconstruct my calendar to have all of those items in it and they're repeatable events. So for 2024, I know every workout I'm going to do for 2024. Now, does something come up? Yeah, and that's okay. When I get there, it's okay. I have to pass it, right? And that's okay if it doesn't work. But for the most part, I can have it planned. The next tool I use is the 411, which a lot of you guys have seen a 411 before. This is a simple PDF version of the 411, which I'm happy to share with you. Just to show you what how to utilize this is your annual goals broken down into job, business, personal, financial. Again, I encourage you to have the 7 areas of your life if you want. But then once you put in your annual goals in here, this top section does not change throughout the year. The ones that do change is every month you're going to come down and say, okay, if my goal in 2024, for example, is sell 50 homes. Now I come into the monthly and say, what must happen in January for me to be on track to hit my goals? Then I put in my monthly goal in each one of these areas for the month. And then I go into my weekly goals. What must happen the first week of January for me to be on track to hit my goals? That's it. In essence, that's how a 411 works.
Marcus?
Yep.
We have 2 comments here in the chat box.
Let's see here. Let me pull it up. Marcus, walk me through your reset. Like you've mentioned on your 2023 goals, they change or come short and oftentimes due to unforeseen circumstances, sickness, injuries, economy. What do you do to keep the gas going and not beat yourself up? Great question, Ammon. For me, this is, we tend to be, a lot of us are high drivers. We tend to be our own worst enemies. We tend to put more energy into beating ourselves up for not doing something or not being on track. And that energy should be used in redirecting or getting back on track. And so, Ammon, the thing that's most important to me is that daily reset piece of, at the end of the day, doing my closeout the day of like, okay, what happened today? What did I learn about that? And I'll show you my success list here in a second. Is I put together my most important activities for the next morning of saying like, okay, I'm not going to give energy to something I have no control of anymore. I'm going to give the energy to what I can control. And what is the most important thing for me to accomplish tomorrow to get me back on track? So for me, like reconnecting to the bigger vision and then getting down to what do I control and am I clear on what the most important thing is? In the book, The One Thing, there's a principle in there that talks about use your, when your willpower is most on will call is how it says it. Meaning a lot of us spend our mornings when our energy is the highest because we just had rest, we just ate breakfast, we just had a workout. We spend our time when our energy is the highest trying to decide what to do for the day. When realistically, what we should be spending that time and energy doing is executing the most important thing for the day. And that's why it's important for me to put my success list together the night before. So like I already walk in after my workout, like I know exactly what I got to do. I'm going to get after it right now. So there's things like that that help. And we can get deeper into some of that, but a lot of that is just reconnecting to my personal mission vision, pulling back in, controlling what I can. Can you go back to the slide with the deconstruct and reconstruct outline right here? And by the way, Jill, if you want, we'd be happy to share any of these slides out with you guys as well. But let's keep rolling on the 411. So this is a standard 411. We have it in PDF and Excel, or you can create your own. Because my world is so complex, I have created my own. Now, I was hesitant to show you what my 411 looks like because I don't wish this 411 on any of you. But because part of my personal mission vision statement is I am a bridge builder and I'm an empire builder, that's part of who I am, is I have to learn how to manage multiple companies and be a leader to multiple and with multiple people. And so for me to fulfill my personal mission vision, mine has to look like this, and I'm okay with that, but I have to stay organized with it. So you can see here real quickly, each one of these boxes that I'm outlining. So like right here, this little box right here is my 411 for Green Management Group. So I have my one thing written in here. I don't right now because this is for January of 2024. And then I'll know, what do I have to do week 1 to move Green Management Group forward? What do I have to do week 2, 3, 4? Same thing for Green Holdings, Falcon Fund, KW Success. I did blow up this box right here as an example for you to see it a little bit closer. So like for Unity, I'm clear. This isn't the company's goal. This is what do I need to do in my partnership for this company in January. One-on-one agent partner scorecard meetings, investor launch meeting already scheduled. A lot of you are coming to that are partners with it. Go Network Incorporated, hire 2 LOs, management partner meeting help. So like I'm clear on what I need to do for the month. And then I've already got on my calendar for January, hold 16 scorecard meetings. Investor launch meeting, we've already got it scheduled. We've already got the invites out. So just to give you an idea of kind of how I work this whole box, this is what I work on every single day. The second part of this is my success list. Again, I know this looks overwhelming, but you can see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. My process on my iPad, I use Notability, this is on my iPad, and I work right through it. Today is Thursday, for example. If this was this week's, I'd have this up. I have my morning routine. This is my morning checklist, which I'll show you a blown up of this in a second. I've already identified my success list. Now notice I've got a couple things on here. These are true every day. My agent partner calls. I'm committed to 5 agent partner calls a day. I'm committed to TWE content created every day. I'm committed to a relationship check-in every day. So those every work day. So those are already on my calendar. The night before, as I would have filled this out with anything else that was on my success list. This is a blow up so you can see it a little bit more. Notice the sum of my morning routine all ties back to my mission, my vision board, and my 7 areas of life. Morning routine. And I just walk through and I check these off every morning. Did I go through my affirmations? Did I wake up on time? I used to say, did I wake up by a certain time? There was a long, I had an era of my life that 3:50 was my alarm every day. I no longer wake up at 3:50. My old man body doesn't handle that anymore. But now I track it as I set an intention the night before of what time I'm going to wake up the next day based on my day and how I'm feeling. So now it's, did I wake up at the time I committed to wake up? Stretching. Did I read for a spiritual book for 20 minutes? Did I read a growth book for 20 minutes? Spanish lesson. I'm learning Spanish right now based on a project I'm doing in South America right now. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu drills for 10 minutes. Guitar scales for 10 minutes. Did I get my first workout of the day done? Did I meditate and pray? So now I've got my morning checklist put together of what I'm committed to do every morning. Okay. Success list. I already walked through that. This would include whatever I had anticipated for my night before meeting with myself of the most important things for me to get done that day. And then I also, at the end of the day, in my close out the day routine, this is my checklist. Did I write in my journal? Did I execute my social strategy? Did I get any thank you cards or texts out for the people I met that day that I have a follow-up to? Did I get my success list done? Did I review my calendar for the next day? Did I confirm my appointments? I added that one in because frankly, I got sick of having someone ask for time on my calendar and then them not show up. And by them not showing up, they stole that hour from me. And so a lot of times I'll confirm the appointments the night before to be like, I just want to make sure you're planning on tomorrow. Because if not, I want to use that hour to build a better version of me. I don't want to sit there frustrated that someone wasted my time. Was I the dad I needed to be? I know this one's a little broad and hard to measure, but it just gives me a minute to be like, okay, maybe I didn't show up though I wanted to show up today. It's not too late. Let me go read Grace a book in bed or something like that. Practice the guitar. And then I just added on for next year, my 60-day document complete, because for those of you that want to go on the journey with me, I want to make sure that I'm going through that document every single day. Okay. Michael Putnam asked me, you're going to wake up at 1 a.m. on Mount Shasta. I know I'm going to. Mount Shasta is I'm somebody in Mount Shasta in May. If any of you saw the episode of TWE with Mike on it, he summited it last year. And so he's going to be my coach. Thanks, coach. All right. So we're about to wrap up our conversation here, and then I'll open it up to any questions. Here's just a couple critical tools as a reminder. Number one is if you fail to plan, just plan on failing this coming year. It's critical to have a real solid business plan put together. So obviously the GPS put together. Every time my life is crumbling, it's because I'm not operating off my 411. When I fall away from that accountability tool, my life turns into a mess very, very fast. And so I know if I'm feeling pressure, I have to go back and be like, am I honoring my 411? Am I honoring my calendar? Make sure you have a scoreboard of how you're tracking your team and you personally. The daily success list is critical. One thing I didn't talk about yet is this one-touch commitment, which I'm happy to share with you. One of my biggest pet peeves is things falling through the cracks because it's a reflection of who we are, both on a personal level and a business level. So I created a rule for myself that I actually have instituted into my businesses as well, called the one-touch commitment. And what the one-touch commitment is how many times does a text come into your world, an email, a Slack, whatever, something comes into your world where you're like, oh, I'll get to that later. And somehow it doesn't, you forget about it. It doesn't get to the right person. So the one-touch commitment for me is when something comes into my world, I have to address it in one of a couple ways. It doesn't mean I have to drop everything else to execute it. It means that does not belong in my email. My email is not a to-do list. It either belongs, I either have to execute it there, or I have to get it onto my success list if it's something I need to do today, or I've got to get it onto my calendar if it's something I need to do at another time, or I've got to delegate it to the person in my world that should be doing it. And so what I cannot do is say, oh, I'll get to that later, because guess what? We're busy. I won't get to it later, and it drops through the cracks. So the one-touch commitment is an important skill set. Live by your calendar. I really love the idea of the vision board, but the way hopefully I gave you some ideas on how to put together a vision board that is an actual living document for you and not just some cool pictures from the magazine you happen to pick up that day. Is really think through how am I emotionally connected to that, and now can I tie the activities to it? Okay, and then the 7 areas of life exercise. I just got asked, what type of calendar do you use or suggest? I do use Google Calendar because I really love them on my phone. I am a Mac user, so I tend to use, for example, here is my calendar for the, oh, you can't see this. Let me share so you can see my calendar. So on my Mac, this is the calendar software it comes with. It works good with the Mac, but it is tied to my Google Calendars because you can see the color coding here. I manage my calendar through a couple different ways, but I tend to use that digital calendar. But once I take that ideal calendar for myself and build it out, yeah, I mean, you can see already, I still have to modify a little bit, but you jump forward into March of 2024, like you can see, I've already got some of the vacations and stuff already put together. You can see all my workouts are already on my calendar. A lot of my one-on-ones, which again need to shift based on how I did my ideal calendar for 2024. But I'll go build that out. So like my calendar will look pretty full already for 2024, but it all matches what I'm trying to accomplish on a bigger level. Hopefully that helps with that explanation. Google Tasks for the one touch. I like that too. It gives you the task as long as that's part of your routine of like, am I committed to completing those tasks or emptying that inbox every day? I like that. Google Suite. Again, I love these ideas. It's really about what works for you. It's really about saying, what can I commit to? And does this serve the bigger picture? I'm in no way suggesting this is the only way to do it. What I'm encouraging you to do is, how do you get all the tools so you have a complete toolbox? Because we're building the best version of you. You need the right tools to do it. If you're missing a tool, like if I had to dig a huge hole in my backyard and I only had a shovel to do it, I would be exhausted and it would take me a long time to do it. But if I had a track hoe sitting there and I had a key in my toolbox, I'd be like, I'll go dig that hole in 15 minutes, right? Great questions. Any questions for me before I issue a challenge to this group? Was this helpful to any of you in looking at how you're going to approach your goals for 2024? I'm hoping so. Throw it in the chat box if you found some value in this, just to let me know. I've been talking to myself for the last hour. Awesome. Thank you. So here's my challenge for this group, and no obligation. whatsoever, no cost, or I'm not selling anything here. I'm committed to becoming the best version of me in 2024, which doesn't mean I have some huge grandiose idea of me becoming something completely different. I want to refine who I am, because I need some refinement in my world. And what fires me up so much is doing it with other people that want to become a better version of themselves. That's why I'm making this invitation. If you want to go on a 60-day challenge with me, which what this entails is if you go to the wholeenchilada.biz 60-day challenge, or scan this QR code, just put in your information. What I'd like to do is send you a couple things. Number one is you'll get those PDFs for you to fill out if you want to fill them out. If you take the time to fill them out and send them back to me, I will send you a whole enchilada shaker bottle with some of my favorite supplements in them to help you get started. And if you don't want to share them, but you want to do it, that's fine too. But what I'd like to do is if you say you want to be a part of this, what I'd like to do is periodically check in on you and send you some of my own challenges, some of my own successes. I'd love to share with you some of my favorite recipes and things like that have helped me along the way. And I'd love to hear those back from you as well. So if you want to join me, I'd love to have you. Please go join it there. And again, it's I'm not selling you anything. It's just wanting to participate and grow together. Any last comments or questions from the group before we wrap up? Look at me. I've never ended a meeting on time, and look at me with 1 minute to spare. Already hitting my goals for 2024.
Marcus, what's the first couple books you're reading for the year?
Good question. So a lot of you have heard me talk about my personal growth plan, which we didn't talk about here. My big focus from a learning standpoint in Q1 of 2024 is growing my leadership. One of the things an aha I had was several years ago. I really dove deep into leadership, knowing that I needed to become a better leader. And I'm very proud. And a lot of you are in my world, and you choose to allow me to be a leader, which I'm so grateful for. You permit me to do that. I'm very proud of what I've been able to accomplish from a leadership standpoint. And I also realize the world is changing so much that I question, have I done the work to be the right leader for my people tomorrow? And so that is my focus for the first quarter, is regrowing my leadership. So I'm going back to some of my favorite leadership books, which tend to be like, oh my gosh, what are the ones that are written by the Jocko Willink? I'm blowing
ownership.
Yeah, extreme leadership. So there's extreme ownership, then he has an extreme leadership behind it. I'm going to pull up the books. I actually have them right here. Hold on, I'm getting there. This is the awkward silence. It's extreme leadership, and then he's got leadership strategy and tactics, the dichotomy of leadership, and I'm going to reread extreme ownership, are the three equal first ones. And then Lincoln on leadership was recommended to me too, of some leadership principles from Abraham Lincoln. And then from the spiritual book that I just got was a recommendation from Joe Langston, which a lot of you know him, who's incredible, which is Jesus the Outlaw, which is a really interesting book about the personality of Jesus.
Awesome. Thanks, Marcus.
Yep. Any other questions for me?
Hey, what was the very last one? Sorry, that Joe recommended to you?
It's called Jesus the Outlaw.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Which I'm kind of a rebel too, so I like the title.
It's in alignment with your personality.
Yeah, right. Any last questions for me as we wrap up? I'll just wrap by saying this. Number one, however we got connected, whether you're in my world, we're connected through social media. I'm just honored that we get to be connected in some way. I love the idea that you want to grow and become a better version of you, because it makes it more fun to be on my own journey, knowing other people are doing the same. Please take some time over the next couple weeks to give your family, your friends, some of your time and energy, because they deserve it. but don't forget to take a little bit of time for you too and reconnect with what's most important to you. And know that I'm available if you guys ever want to connect. But I'm so excited to win next year. You hear this little phrase going around right now of people saying survive until 25. I think that's such a coward thing to be saying right now. Like that they're basically throwing away 1 year of their life. For some people, that could be up to 1.5%, 2% of their life. And they're throwing it out on social media. Like, look at what I'm saying. Forget that. Let's go win in 2024 and have an even better 2025 by becoming a better version of us in 2024. Happy holidays. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for being here today. Go give your families and your businesses your time and energy.
Thank you, Marcus.
Thanks, Marcus.
See you.